the employees' party?
17 around.
Where's the food?
Tonight's meeting, the reason for the meeting is the fire department, the collection of fees. My name is Carly Trombetta. I'll be the chairperson. Also on the committee would be Louise McMahon, Freddie Visconti. Tonight with us is Fire Chief Harold, Corporation Counsel Les Pinter, Director of Finance David St. Hilaire, and a representative from the insurance company, Tim Pelton. As well, ex officio members here tonight are Phil Curran, Bob Riley, Colleen Stanley, and Warren Levy. Anyone else? Everyone else, welcome. There's food and stuff back there. Tonight's meeting, again, is for the collection of fees. And I think we'll start off by having Chief tell us a little bit about what's going on, because there's a little confusion on it.
Okay. What we're doing, or what I'm hoping to do by this ordinance that I'm asking for, is to allow the city to initiate a process where, in the event of use of emergency services, fire trucks, the equipment, material that is consumable, such as speedy dry, absorbent pads for hazardous materials response, and those types of items, we can submit a bill to piggyback on insurance claims to try to get some of those funds reimbursed to the city. Now, it's not necessarily collection of fees because it's not a set fee structure, and so the title, collection of fees, is a little bit off kilter. What it is establishing the insurance billing process, very similar to what we currently do and have done since 1992 with the ambulance. In other words, when the emergency services respond and you make use of the emergency services, we would submit a bill onto an insurance claim. This would be, and as an example, a technical rescue for a extrication from a motor vehicle accident. It involves, often several pieces of fire apparatus. Many participants from the fire department are there. Specialized training and tools are used. And what would happen is, after that was done, in the process of putting together the run report and completion of the call, we would submit a bill through our collecting insurance agent to the insured company, the insurance companies for the operators of the vehicles. This would be a similar process in the event we were to have a structure fire or a house fire that resulted in an insurance claim where the owner of the facility was going to be submitting a claim to their insurance company. Some of our tools, equipment, and the specialized training that we use in the effecting of our response would also be able to be, a bill submitted and perhaps some of that recouped back into the city. What I would like to think of here is that I know a common discussion that I've had is that, well, we're already paying for the fire department with our taxes, property taxes and such. We have a fire department. But that's really like a preparation fee, if you will, to get the equipment on site. And what we're talking about is really the institution of a user's fee, if you will. When the response actually happens, there are costs incurred. Everything from use of diesel fuel to the expendable materials that can sometimes be used at a response. So we're talking about instituting that user fee on the emergency response side of the fire side, very similar to what we're doing with the ambulance and have been doing since 1992.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Chief Harold, does this affect a homeowner's insurance when you would have to, say, put this on your...
No, historically, insurance companies actually allow for that in their policies. It does not change and should not and has not historically, in other places where it's already instituted, not affected insurance rates. There is no increase in insurance rates.
No increase?
No, there is no increase associated with this. No, not at all. The numbers we're talking are actually pretty low. For example, and we have some specific information we can go into, but a description of what we use here. For example, we'll call this a rescue rate, and this would be, for example, to be used at MVAs, motor vehicle accidents, where the vehicle needs to be stabilized, hand tools needed for extrication, and this is everything from pry bars to drills or power saws and such to get out, and and then standby as well while you're actually waiting for the wrecker to get there to clean up the vehicle, that would be a submission of only $350 to the insurance company to pay. We're not talking significant numbers in any one incident here. And these numbers are set kind of by traditional, the tradition over the last several years since these plans have been in effect. By the way, we're certainly not at the forefront of this. There are many other cities, municipalities in Connecticut alone that are doing this and have been doing this for a number of years now. So we're actually building this model off of other existing, currently operating models, including places as volunteer companies as Botsford, Connecticut, or cities like Waterbury, West Hartford, Bridgeport, Norwalk. They're all doing these processes already.
Now, there is...
I'm sorry, have I fully answered your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Within the insurance industry, there's something called a clue report. And I've had questions, actually as late as tonight, about especially on the homeowner side, if a person files a claim, if there's a claim, fire department comes out because of, say, carbon monoxide, but no damage, no physical damage to the house, but there is a response from the fire department, and the insured happens to call the homeowners and say, is this covered, is this not covered? Now, I know you're always paid out, so technically there's no paid claim. But within the insurance industry, if you pop up, if someone's insuring a new home, and we put in their name and address, a clue report comes up showing that there's an incident. And some companies will take that into effect on whether it's going to, number one, whether they're insurable or not, and number two, if they get a claim-free discount or not. Now, that comes under clue report for the homeowners. So I'm just wondering, is that going to have any impact on the private citizen who has a fire department come out, or...
I'd like to defer that particular question to Tim Pelton. Tim Pelton is from Holdsworth Pelton, and this is a company that is actually in the process of doing this with a number of other municipalities in the state, and he's my specific subject matter expert, which is why he's here. So,
good evening, welcome. I will answer your question, and then we'll go into a couple of handouts. If an insurance claim, or let's go back to your incident of a carbon monoxide activation. That's not going to generate an insurance claim for us to file a claim against. Think of all the situations in the fire department, wires down, lockout of a car, all of those host of scenarios, none of which will generate an insurance claim, none of those are billable events. The type of event that we're talking about in the fire billing program is where the property owner of the automobile or of the home will submit a claim that we can dovetail and ride on. Classic example, motor vehicle accident on 84, which significant damage is done to a car. The tow truck operator is going to get paid. The body shop guy is going to get paid. Why shouldn't Danbury get paid for the services that they render? So, in the event of submitting a claim, part of what you commission us to do is to submit a claim in the name of Danbury, City of Danbury, or Danbury Fire Department to seek compensation for services rendered. But again, not every time the fire department rolls out the door is it a billable event.
How about the, say it's a small loss, it's $850, and property damage under $1,000 isn't chargeable anyway. Right. And your $350 charge boosted up over the threshold of the insured. It is a chargeable loss. What about that?
It is a chargeable event, but in that scenario, I would suggest that most of the time, people don't submit a claim. We are awestruck with a number of motor vehicle accidents where we go to where the car is towed away, and we go to research downstream for payment, and no claim was ever submitted. I don't know if everybody's brother-in-law owns an auto body shop or people don't want to pay the deductible, but part of the process is that there needs to be a submitted claim for Danbury to bill against. No claim, game over, the process ends.
No, but I'm saying if there is a claim of $750, and by tacking on your $350, you're now over you make it a chargeable loss. Where before it was if someone has a $200 deductible, they submit their bill, and I have it all the time where they do submit bills for $750, $800 because they feel they pay insurance, they want their $600.
Sure.
Now you tack on your $350 for the cleanup, you now boost that from a non-chargeable accident significantly different, especially if you have young drivers in the house, to a chargeable accident. Okay?
Based on our experience, we have had no history of a person's premium going up due to fire billing. Now, it doesn't mean if that's your third motor vehicle accident that your insurance rates don't go up, but as we've tried to research this program, we haven't found that any of our fees have triggered a premium adjustment unfavorably to a property owner. Part of the fee structure that we design here, and it's all arbitrary numbers. I'll get into my talk in a minute, but there are no regulations, no ordinance, no laws, no statutes that govern fire billing. So all of the rates that the chief has discussed, and they're all the rates used by our clients in Connecticut, are all designed to not offend the insurance carriers, to be a reasonable compensation for going up on 84 and going to a motor vehicle accident. What's the average cost of a home in Danbury?
What was it or was it now?
Well, good point well taken. Let's say today
It's
just
about 300, 280.
Somewhere around 280, something like that.
okay.
Yeah.
So $280,000, and the Danbury Fire Department goes to a kitchen fire where there's a $20,000 loss. The fee for that response is $1,000. Now, from the insurance company's perspective, they're going to look at a $20,000 loss that's going to go to $21,000. But what if the fire department didn't go? What if it was a $280,000 loss? Traditionally, we don't get much negative feedback from the insurance companies over the rate schedule. It's all or nothing. Literally, they send a check or no check at all. We haven't had to negotiate a rate down or anything like that, and there are 7 carriers that historically never pay. Never have, never will. In 5 years, they've never made a payment. Again, fire billing is not regulated, not statute, not by law, whatever. So it's let's run through the process. If it works, great, we get some cash out, and cash comes back to the town. Another question that often comes up at this point is, so if the insurance company doesn't pay, does that bill revert down to the property owner? Your choice. None of our clients in Connecticut are doing it. It's a bad PR.
It would be our intention not to.
Situation.
It only goes to the insurance company and not...
If a claim is opened up, then we'll try to piggyback on it and get the money back.
Exactly. That's exactly
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's not going to go to Mrs. Smith down the road.
That's
not going to happen.
That's 3 calls. Actually,
No, that's not going to happen.
Today.
Absolutely not.
Mrs. Smith, who's 82 years old, does not want to.
No, that's not going to happen at all.
Now, just to digress for 2 seconds, on the EMS side, you are required by law, by federal law, to drill it down to the patient because of Medicare, Medicaid, and all of those mandates that cover part of the emergency medical side. Fire billing is a unique animal. It's its own commodity. And the model that all of our clients use are, let's go after the insurance companies, let's see what we can get. Whatever we get is found money. You don't ask, you're not going to get it. And our model is 3 strikes and out. And if you've ever dealt with, are you in the insurance business? So I need to be careful and respect the chairman's position in the insurance business. But sometimes insurance companies are reticent to pay. And sometimes they might ask, well, we need Tim Pelton's middle initial before we can do this claim. It's N. We need to know, mother's maiden name. I'm making it up as I go along, but part of the tactic that is often used by insurance carriers is, can we ask enough questions and maybe this claim will go away? Our experience is we will answer every question, every time. We will submit the bill 3 times. Please compensate Danbury for this effort. 3 times and out. Our history and experience says after that, you're pushing on a rope. It's not going to happen. So, with all that, I didn't bring enough material for everybody here in the room. So I brought enough for the folks that are on the meeting notice, and I will let the chief take the position of distributing to whomever the right players are. And in this packet are 3 documents. And one is fire billing frequently asked questions, having done forums like this scores of times. These are the questions that come up most often. The yellow sheet is a financial projection sheet for what might be garnered on an annual basis for Danbury based upon the data that the chief provided me for the 2008.
Now, these numbers were submitted from our last year's statistical analysis for the fire calls and rescue calls to meet the specific aspects as put forth on these descriptions.
Now, at this point, everyone usually dives for the yellow sheet, so we'll just jump ahead and say that the projection for the city of Danbury is around $25,000, based upon all of the run data that the chief provided me for the 2008 year. That becomes a strategic decision, a tactical decision that the city has to make. Do they want to pursue this effort to generate $25,000? And part of the challenge is in fire billing is that based upon the chief's numbers, on the initial pass-through, you say, oh, wow, we can make $100,000. Incorrect. Our experience is that you're going to get paid 25 cents on the dollar invoice submitted through us. Why is that? Again, there are 7 carriers that don't pay, and they're nationwide, Allstate, AIG. Well, AIG's got their own problems now. But there are a number of large carriers that don't pay. We can only bill on when a claim is submitted by the property owner. We don't control that. So if the property owner doesn't submit a claim for us to piggyback on, there's no process there. Other carriers elect not to pay a given event. Mr. Chairman, are you with Progressive?
No.
Okay. Progressive has 2 offices, one in the western side of the state and one in Glastonbury. And even within a carrier, there are different rules for what they will and will not pay. So the largest challenge to us as your billing agent, and we're a clearinghouse, we're a service agency, you give us the run information, we're going to submit it to the insurance carrier and try and get them to cut you a check. And the biggest challenge to us is there is no mandate that they have to do that. Now, some insurance policies do have an emergency service rider, and it's usually way back on page 32 in the policy, and it might say that in the event of an emergency response, you can submit a claim for compensation to XYZ emergency agency. We are unable to verify who has and who does not have an emergency service rider. When we try and solicit that data from the insurance carrier, it is less than easy to confirm the status of that report. And the chairman has a Cheshire cat grin, and I'm not quite sure what that's all about.
Because he insured some of the people here.
Okay.
No, you're right. There is a portion in the back of the policy that states if you desire, you can send your bill up to 500 or 1,000, depending on what your carrier has.
Whatever the number is.
For reimbursement to that particular agency, not to yourself, but to the agency. So,
correct.
Yeah, there is.
So that is the one tangible, I'll call it mandate or responsibility of the insurance carrier to fulfill that, if indeed the property owner has that coverage.
How is this going to help you, Chief? What do you think about this?
Obviously, the initial case for found money, being money that previously was not a stream coming in, and the money itself would go towards immediately, of course, replacing some of those consumables. Tools get worn out. We actually do use things up at fire calls and emergency calls on a regular basis, whether it's Speedy Dry or the sorbent pads for a petrochemical spill, and those once we use them, they're lost to us. If it's a major hazardous materials incident, we'll get that back. Well, sometimes we get it back through FEMA or other such agencies. But normally these are very small quantities in small isolated situations, like a tractor trailer truck, saddle tank, or a vehicle with a crushed gas tank. So we don't have a way to get those back, and they come out of our regular budget. And this is kind of found money that would go back towards replenishing those materials that are used in these cases, in these accidents and immediate fire scenes.
Do you see a backlash? I mean, I could just see it. I mean, a backlash when this ordinance is approved, if it is approved, a backlash from the community saying, "Hey guys, I'm paying tax. This is what I'm getting when my phone calls that I've gotten. I'm paying taxes. Why do we have to worry about billing? They're thinking that they have to pay this. They're going to incur the expense. It's going to ruin their insurance rates. There's a lot of things. I mean, if they're at the meeting, that's fine. But the perception out there, first of all, they hate insurance companies and they hate taxes. So it's a lose-lose situation.
Well, and your point is well taken. The thing is, I think it's been clearly expressed now that the insurance actual premiums are not affected. Historically, there's been no evidence of that, and we haven't had any tracking of that. Insurance rates do not go up when they get this bill for all the reasons that have just been said. But the other part of this is that I think we need to go back to kind of near my opening statement when I talked about your taxes are actually paying for the preparation, your taxes are paying for the training and the equipment to get there, and then when we're actually responding and using it, it's not the same. It's being used up, it's being consumed, and then they have to replace. Now, at some point, we have to go back to the tax dollar again to get more, and at some point that ends. There just aren't any more tax dollars there, and David can certainly address some of that. We're up against it. In a situation like this, the monies that are available that are recovered through this type of insurance billing would go back in to offset the loss and the use of some of those materials. So it really is a user fee. People that use the facility, use the equipment, and use the responding agencies.
I have a question to the finance director, to the chair. Would this money go in your budget, or would it go into the fire department budget if these fees were collected? Where would this money actually be that you would collect? Do you know that answer?
What's my budget?
Well, I'm saying into the city budget, or the general fund.
Well, I mean,
How does that work?
It would, the way it kind of works, and I'll kind of share how it works with the special services account. There's kind of a fee added on there, a 15% fee that started in January, which the council approved for, and the police department has been using that for years. That basically became part of their operations. It stayed within their line items. Now they can use that for whatever they wanted to use it for, training or whatever. This will have to work out how we do it. I would assume it would go for just the purposes that Jeff was talking about.
Okay.
For example, I know at the recent fire that we had right next to your building, he lost a pretty heavy-duty piece of equipment, which cost...
well, the new one was $20,000.
$20,000.
The new one is about 12 or 15.
Of course, our insurance deductible is quite high, and so that's right out of his budget item. That's a line item that he's going to have to take on the chin.
Well, let's use that fire as an example. That's a great example.
Did you get that back?
Not yet. 7 New Street cost the city about $25,000 over and above the tax dollars that you've already paid to get there. That was an overtime cost, $7,000 plus in overtime, $650 in diesel fuel, thermal imaging camera, which if replaced now is about $12,000, $14,000, depending on which model you buy, and a saw that was damaged at the time. So plus several dozen hours of diesel operations, where the trucks are wear and tear. So that fire was over $25,000. That comes out of our budget. That billing for that fire would have been $1,000. That's all we would have asked for from the insurance company to come back, at least to help begin to offset some of this. We're not looking for a dollar-for-dollar function here. Obviously, that's just not attainable, certainly as Mr. Pelton has explained with the insurance companies. But the point of that matter is that there is a fee that the city incurs for performing these services. $25,000 loss to us, 200 and however much thousand loss to the homeowner and such. If we put on $1,000, if we could bill for that amount under this process, that's what we would get back to be $1,000.
I'll tell you, personally, I don't mind if there's a claim already open. Okay.
Right.
Tim, if their claim is already open and we piggyback this, it's only a win-win for the city. okay? The insurance company, like I said, the claim is open, $21,000, $22,000, it's really not going to make a difference. If it goes back to the budget of the city, either fire department or police department, wherever, that's my concern, because you guys protect us. So make sure that if we can get it from, AIG or any of the companies, and it goes back to the city of Danbury, I see no problem with it. I didn't want, and you, basically what you're saying is it's not going to affect the insurance policy
Premium.
because a claim would have to be opened anyway.
Right.
It's not a chargeable if you use that portion of the policy in the back that no one even looks at, that they have the ability, if you explain, if a good agent explains, listen, this isn't going to affect you guys at all. This is something the insurance company is just going to pay back on your behalf to the city. Okay?
And to that point, it was interesting, because once I started looking into this a little over a year ago now, I did go to my own insurance policy, and I found that little clause in the back, and it does allow, and it was like the third from the last little clause, and it was in tiny print that I actually needed another pair of glasses. So, I mean, and it was there. And one thing, the plan as I put it together in the process here would be, as David alluded to, it would be to develop an income stream account to the fire department where this insurance money would come back to the department, and it would be dedicated to these types of consumables or to repair stuff that was damaged at fires, and it would be used for that purpose, and for the purpose for which it was expended.
What most of our clients do is we will deposit the revenue that we collect anywhere you want us to deposit. Most clients set up an escrow account somewhere in the chart of accounts with the town finance director, and that money just sits there. And it's our recommendation that when money is taken out of there, it's a photo opportunity. If you want to get a new thermal imager, if you want to make a down payment on upgrading equipment, whatever it is, that money is controlled by the city, but it's its own light item, so it doesn't get lost in the, take this respectively, the black hole of city finance. And when that account is cashed out or part of the money is withdrawn, it should be a PR event. It should be an opportunity to say, the good people of Danbury didn't have to pay for this new X because it came out of a program we had established to recoup funds from insurance carriers. Question, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's one back down here, too.
A couple questions, if I may.
Sure.
First of all, who's going to do the actual billing? Is this going to be done by your company?
Correct.
That has not been awarded yet.
I'm just saying.
No, a company as Holdsworth.
A service agency like ours.
For example, we use there's another company that does our EMS billing. They can, I imagine something like this. We'd have to investigate the different. There are many companies that do this.
You've got to,
It has not been determined yet who would do it.
if they do this, if there are other companies that do this, something similar, we'd have to put it out to bid. If they are a sole source, then we would do that. But right now, I don't. This is more of a conceptual type of thing that we're looking at.
So somewhere, somewhere then along the line, if we were to go with this and then we found out we had to award it to a certain company, whoever, there's a fee involved?
A percentage of the fee, somewhere around 11%, seems to be the industry average. And 11% of the collected fees.
And
not billables, collected fees.
question to the Corporation Council. Does this fit within our ordinances by going ahead and trying to do something like this?
That's a strong question. And does it fit? It doesn't. As was stated correctly, we checked with the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. Sometimes they do inquiries to help us when a novel question comes up. And one of the things they said was that there aren't any prohibitions, but there aren't any allowances either. There's no specific statute, neither is there a specific ordinance that we have that permits this activity. It's not really collection. It's not. It's kind of an animal without a name. The information that we have, and that Mr. Pelton has relayed also, is that there are municipalities that do this without ordinances. Whether they're doing this by bootstrap, without the benefit of authority, I don't know. There are no ordinances that I can find enacted which specifically authorize this activity. So again, apparently there are some municipalities who do this as a matter of some kind of administrative process. I do not see authority for that anywhere. The way that this could be done is to enact an ordinance that would be very clear as to the reason for this billing process, which would be to provide a revenue source, a recognized revenue source for payment of certain costs that would not normally be incurred in the usual course of business, such as the Chief was mentioning. These would be extraordinary costs of certain kinds of equipment. If you don't do it that way, the problem is you're going to run headlong into the privatization question. And that's one of the murkiest areas of the law, is what is the municipality's authorized obligations under law to provide services versus what can be billed extra. Very, very difficult area, because you can privatize some things. Other things you have to have some authority to do that, or at least if you're smart, you have some authority to do that. So to get right back to the question, I don't see a strict prohibition against enacting an ordinance to do this. That would be the way to go. I wouldn't recommend kind of doing this under the wire with an administrative procedure. I think it probably should be in the light of day with an enacted law. When we draft, if the committee suggests this and the council agrees with it, we would draw up an ordinance that would define the parameters that you've set, and we would make sure that there aren't any other things we haven't seen that would prohibit it. But it would be a formal authorization by ordinance, and Danbury would probably be the first one to do it. So whether there be challenges to it, you can never be sure. If that answers the question.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Thank you. A couple things for the record. First of all, these are very difficult financial times, and one has to be very concerned about any time that you might, the perception of levying another amount of money on a particular thing. The perception of the taxpayer would probably be that this is a double jeopardy. I mean, I could understand where you come from, Chief, and in all due respect to you.
Sure.
But many of our people today, our taxpayers, are looking at ways to cut down on any area that they think they can save some money. And many times they don't file a small claim because they're under the assumption that once they file that small claim, their premium or their cost is going to go up. I just think that for the 25,000 K that we're talking about, if that is the essence of the monies, it's not worth the bad PR that we might get from the public. These are not times that we should be looking at to gain $25,000 at the expense of the public, saying this doesn't sound fair to me, and what's going on. So my comments is you really have to be careful about something like this and really think deep and hard on this question. It could come back to haunt us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You come.
Thank you. Let me see where I want to start. You were calling these user fees, and one of my questions is, when you gave us the list for possible cleanup or what have you. We do have towing companies that come out and clear up accidents. They are responsible, I think it is in the ordinance, for cleanup. So I do look at your list, and I see hazmat 1, hazmat 2. I think that's pretty important, because I'm not sure if all towing companies that get called to the scene are capable of taking these two. Okay, so I can see that. The other, I'm really not in agreement with. Let me just look at my notes. What I'm concerned with when we do cleanup is that there would be, the insurance companies would be getting double billed. Not that I worry about insurance companies. Also, another question I have is what happens when we're dealing with uninsured? That happens all the time.
No claim.
We don't submit a bill.
There wouldn't be a bill?
No bill at all.
Okay.
If there's no insurance claim, we don't submit a bill.
Okay.
Which is why these numbers, by the way, are so conservative. I'm sorry, Councilwoman. The numbers that I propose there are very conservative. We stripped them down to below our actual responses, just because I don't want to paint a rosy Pollyanna picture about how much money is really generated here. I think these are legitimate numbers, and I think they're probably fairly close, but they were very conservative when we put them onto the paperwork for these reasons. I don't want to paint a Pollyanna picture.
And maybe, Chief, you can answer this question through the chair to the Chief. Volunteers, the volunteer fire department, are they paid when they get called in to help out? Don't they show up to accidents, and are we going to be using the insurance company to help pay their costs?
They don't
Do they come on their own? How does that work?
No, they get dispatched via the 911 dispatch center to specific calls. There's a very strict matrix where who is dispatched to what call. For example, they would not normally go to a regular motor vehicle accident. If there was a 2-car, 3-car serious accident with extrication, then we might activate a volunteer company because they have extrication tools. And that is one of the things we talked about here. For example, there's a service call at the very bottom here. Most of those are going to be going, potentially to the volunteers departments, because the volunteers, are the ones that do all our pump outs. They have the portable pump. So there is some opportunity, or some of this might be directed to the volunteers. But predominantly it was coming into the career department, because most of these calls are what we handle pretty much on our, without the volunteers' assistance.
Okay, another question that I have. Non-resident accidents that happen in the city of Danbury. Do we have jurisdiction to?
It's very interesting you should ask that question. There's a town in Delaware that we were looking at, I was considering as a model for this. What they've done is they actually have a 2-tier system. If you live in the town, you get one bill. If you're out of town, you get a higher bill, because you didn't pay the taxes to provide that preparation fee. And that's a model that actually works, and it's been tested, and they're successful at it. So if there's 2 cars involved in an accident on Main Street in Danbury, one's from Bethel, one's from Danbury, if we had that ordinance, the Danbury person would get a bill for, I'm going to pick out numbers, $200 or $250, and the other Bethel would get $350. However, once again, that's all contingent on the insurance billing. At this time, we can submit a bill. If it happens in Danbury, if we respond to it, we mitigate the incident, we can submit a bill on their insurance, piggyback their insurance. Remember, this is only contingent on there already being an open insurance claim.
Okay, just a few more questions.
They're good questions.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll give you a little latitude.
Oh, thank you.
I just want to say that.
Now, you said that when you go to the insurance companies, you try billing them 3 times. If you get no response, you drop it?
That's correct.
Okay, so that means that insurance companies wouldn't be sent into collection? Or...
No, it's.
Well, if insurance companies find out about this, they're not going to pay you at all.
Well,
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. That's just the point of view that I have.
we are generating around $200,000
Okay.
for fire departments in the state of Connecticut. And what I really hope, in the spirit of your question, is they don't all play golf someday together, and the guys that say we don't pay talk to the guys that do pay. The spirit of that response is fire billing could end tomorrow. On a legislative mandate coming out of D.C. saying fire billing is inappropriate, illegal, immoral, whatever you want to. There was some lobbying going on in the summer of '08, sort of nipping at the heels of that issue. Right now, suffice to say, insurance companies have much bigger fish to fry, i.e. survivability. So we don't have any sense that legislation, that mandate is going to go anywhere. But since there are no regulatory mandate standards, laws, whatever, for payment, They can arbitrarily and capriciously say, nope, not going to pay.
Unless there's an ordinance.
Or unless there's a rider in the policy, and then that would be fraud. But again, as I mentioned, we can't ever pursue that.
Another follow-up question is, I know a lot of times when there's huge fires, we will get called to help out in Ridgefield.
Mm-hmm.
Will we be billing Ridgefield for our services, all of our services, to their insurance company?
Under our current mutual aid policies, no.
No.
No. There is no...
So we wouldn't help other...
There's no way.
We won't bill other municipalities.
Right. We wouldn't bill anybody. We go to Ridgefield, we'll still do the same thing that we would there, as we would on our regular mutual aid responses.
And one other comment that I'd like to end. I'm just wondering if this is going to set a precedence for the police department to follow.
Actually, it's interesting. There are some models that have already allowed that in certain jurisdictions, and I want to follow up to one of your earlier questions. There are some billing models out there already that this is kind of mimicking on a much larger scale, specifically the hazmat responses. If there was a tractor-trailer that rolled over right now in downtown Danbury carrying XYZ chemical, we would go perform our mitigation, do what we had to do to solve the problem, and then we can submit a bill for everything we did up to that, including the amount of time the engines were running, diesel fuel, parts pieces, the speedy dry and everything, under OSHA and FEMA laws right now. So what we're doing, this is not an untested model. It's just a much smaller scale. So this is not totally untested. I want to make sure that's understood. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, I wonder if I could Tim, I see the fee is actually $25 per claim.
Right. I wanted to take a minute and develop that. We are in the throes of looking at a different fee structure, and our historical model had been 10.5% of all the money collected, not submitted as an invoice, but all the money collected, because that was our EMS model. And what we've come to find out is that firemen are very resourceful, and they will put together as much paperwork in the world as possible and let us sort it out. Well, there were an awful lot of unnecessary, clear as a bell that the claim wasn't going to be processed, or it was one of the big 7 folks that we said we're not going to bill for anyway. So we are in the throes of contemplating a new model of $25 per claim submitted to us. And under the previous billing structure, had we collected $25,000 in simple math, it would have been $2,500 to us for our admin fee. Under this new $25 per claim model, that number goes to $1,800. So there's a cost savings to the client to motivate them to move to this new model. And we have just started to test it out, but clearly if there is a filter at this end of the process, a gatekeeper to screen the data and to make sure all the dots are dotted and the T's are crossed, it really enhances our efficiency and productivity at our end, and we're not pushing a lot of paper that we don't need to push.
And if I could follow up with that, I really, because there is no assurances, even if we were to pass this ordinance, that your company would
Understood.
Get it. So we don't know where that building would
I'm
be.
here to provide anyone
But I'm
with an
only
education.
using this as a template to understand the functions here. And the $25,687, that is that your fee, that fee included in this model?
No. We've based our billing model based on our EMS side and the federal law. Federal law says that the billing agencies cannot commingle the money. We can't collect money for a client, take our fee out of it, and give them a net check. What happens is we collect all the revenue for the month of March. That gets deposited into an account established by the finance director of where that money should go. In April, you will get an invoice from us for services rendered, just like UI or a utility or a service bureau or whatever. We cannot do a to-from with your money.
Okay. What I did was I took the volume of calls that you have listed in the model, and I was looking at that. And and just projecting that
Great.
the fees would be about $5,000 out of the 25. Is that right?
Yeah, that $2,500, or probably around $1,800 would come out of that number, so cash in the bank
23.
would be 23-ish, somewhere in there. Let me talk about other fees for a minute, because it was a great question. Does Danbury have a 3-alarm ordinance for the police department?
Yes.
Okay, so there's another fee model there. Does Danbury charge for plan review by the fire department?
Yes.
Okay, so again, there are other models of emergency service fee structures of which we're trying to enhance it here. The challenge is, and it was an excellent point, is fire billing double dipping? We suggest it's not. We suggest it's a model to recoup operating costs. You're not going to get it all back, but in these trying times, is it a way to get some cash, some revenue back in the door to cover the disposable expendables that the fire department uses every day?
Excuse me, we're running over because there's another meeting.
Okay, just one other thing, if I may.
Yeah.
Then, actually, the hazmat calls, which a state statute allows for reimbursement to the municipality, currently, that actually should be taken. We're billing that currently.
Only on significant calls that fall under OSHA 1910-120. We don't do it on a regular basis.
Large incident.
It's got to be a large incident where FEMA would actually become involved. So that's why I was talking about the carriers with the large tanker trucks and such. A small saddle tank and stuff, no, that's all on us, and that could be still a rather expensive proposition, but it's not something that they're going to get involved with.
Thank you.
Freddie, one more question, and we're not to...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair, you keep mentioning EMS, and our fire department, without a doubt, EMS is way above fire responses, thank God. But EMS now gets a bill from the city. Okay? Correct me if I'm wrong. And so that's one bill. Now, if we happen to use oxygen or whatever it may be, are they going to get another bill besides this one, Chief?
You mean for if it's a fire, an ambulance call and an accident? Yeah, what would happen is, remember, the ambulance actually bills the patient, and if they don't get their insurance, they bill the patient anyway. They still send it, and we have some of those even going to collection on occasion. The EMS does, follow up with a bill that the insurance doesn't pay. Ours would be piggybacked with the insurance on that and the single claim. So it would be, they get an ambulance ride, $400 or whatever it is to the hospital, then they might get a $350 bill for the extrication at the accident as well. But that would all be into the insurance claim, correct? That's a possibility, as an example.
Just a quick comment, if I may, and that to me, it seems, and I don't mean disrespecting, but isn't that not double billing?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. It's two totally different scenarios. For example, are you talking about, is it a second agency from the city setting a bill? Yeah, in that sense it is, but it's still one bill. It's $472 for the ambulance ride to the hospital, so it's a $700 bill for the call response, is what it may be.
And then the bill would go to Danbury Hospital, whoever it may be, for $470.
And those numbers, I'm not exact sure of the numbers, by the way.
Piggyback would be $300.
Right.
Are they going to know that $300 does not go to a credit if it doesn't get paid, or is that going to be part of the bill, or how do you work?
No, it's billed. It's very definitely it's separate billing. Yeah, you can see it on the. Yeah, if they don't pay it, like I said, we just don't resubmit it, and it comes in just for that part of the claim.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, if I may, at this time, Mr. Chairman, to continue this meeting until further information from Corporation Council regarding implementation of a new ordinance and what other information we may need regarding billing and so forth.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention. I have an extra packet of information for